Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about insecurity. This is going to be an interesting video because it may be a little rambly, but it's something I've been thinking about for almost a year. And let me tell you why. So I've talked on this channel, on many different videos, about why people have said they didn't really like working with me. I've heard back. Now, a lot of people may not like working with me, but they didn't tell me directly. I've heard this from people who ended up liking working with me, but understood why others didn't, or may have talked to people who didn't. The two biggest ones that I've heard were that I get very passionate about my ideas, and in doing so, other people's ideas get dismissed, whether I'm intending to do that or not. It doesn't feel good when your idea gets brushed aside because I'm, all excited to be talking about my idea. And then related to that, I tended to get more attention, whether it was in a brainstorming meeting or in any other kind of meeting, or even when press would come in, I'd get excited. I'd want to talk about stuff. So I'd get more attention, and people just got frustrated. And I can see that. I get really into stuff. It's one thing I've been told my whole life. This channel, when people said, how can you do a video every day? And I'm like, seriously? A 10 or 15 minute video where I talk about stuff in a 40-something year career? That isn't the hard part. The hard part is, not wanting to post all of them on the day I do it. But there was one video that I keep thinking about. It was called Late Stage Troika, where I talked about the end of Troika. It's one of my favorite videos to do because it's also, I think, one of my more heartfelt videos about this is what game development is compressed into 10 minutes. I recommend you watch it. But one of the things I mention in it is I had recently talked to a programmer at Carbine that I worked with, that I got along well with, and he said, out of the blue, you made me feel insecure. And I was surprised because I was like, well, you were one of the people who hired me. I mentioned that my hiring process was somebody different every day. I met with the producer, and then I met with the two guys who started the company, and then I met with the three programmers because I was going to get hired as a lead programmer. And then they flew in a lot of the higher-ups from Austin, including Richard Garriott. I mean, it was an interesting. And then on Friday, I called the producer that I had had lunch with on Monday and said, hey, where are we going to lunch today? But he said what was interesting about that meeting is going into it, he was super insecure, this programmer, because he said, even though, he had worked on WoW, and that's something I told him. I'm like, you worked on World of Warcraft. How would you feel insecure? And he goes, everything I'd done, you'd done more. I helped make an engine. You've written multiple engines. You had created the Fallout IP, helped create the Fallout IP. He said it seemed like no matter what I had done, you had done more and better. And I even commented that there was another programmer at the table with us who we both agreed was the smartest person we'd ever met in our life, and a way better programmer than either of us. And he said, yeah, but even with that, I had more experience than him. We would talk about programming, and even though he was a better programmer, I'd done things. I knew what worked and what didn't, or how to get some things together, or how to connect some disparate systems. So my experience kind of gave me that edge. But he goes, I didn't even have that with you. So it made me very insecure. And of all the people I've talked with since starting this channel, including other people from Carbine Artists, where we talked about what the source of all the tension we had, the other Carbine designers that I ended up hiring, and then when I left, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm abandoning you. We've talked about that. This one comment from the Carbine programmer I keep going back to because it bothers me. I keep thinking, what could I have done? Now, I asked him, and he said he didn't think it was on me to fix that. And he even said, because they had wrapped themselves in kind of this armor of insecurity, he didn't call it that, but that's what I ended up thinking about it later. Since they had wrapped themselves in this armor that was fueled by insecurity, and I was part of that insecurity, any attempt by me to disarm it would probably only strengthen it. So it wasn't on me to fix that. And he brought up game design, which I brought up on this channel many, many times, that in game design, you can't come up with features that everyone's going to like. There's going to be somebody who thinks that feature could have been done better, or I would have liked the game better without that feature. while other people would be like, I wish there had been more of that feature. I mean, just read the comments here. Whenever there's something that I say, I'm talking about a particular feature, whether it's encumbrance or dialogue or combat features, turn-based, real-time, party, solo. There are people who say, I love it this way and I hate it the other way. And then there's people on the other side of the fence who love it the other way and hate it this way. And because of that, there's really no good way to make a game that everybody will like. And he said the same thing is here, that not everybody's going to like working with you, and there may not be a fix for this. And that bothers my programming brain, because the programmer side of my brain is like, I want a solution to this. And my designer social side is like, yeah, isn't there some way I can just break through? There may not be that way, that solution. And what's weird for me the reason I have trouble getting through this is I like working with people who are smarter and more experienced than I do. I've said this repeatedly on different videos. I like them because they do good work, and ultimately that's what you want. You work with someone smart, they find clever solutions to things. You work with someone experienced, they know where the potholes are in the road coming up, and they know solutions that will work. They, especially if you want to use them as a fallback. We're going to try something new, but if we have to fall back, here's something I know works. I love working with people like that. But this Carbine programmer, he said, it may have been because you already had success behind you. He said, I don't know what you were like when you first started, but he goes, you already had success behind you. You knew you could do good things. But these people were in the process of chasing success. They were looking for their big game. And in that sense, I was an obstacle to them. I was this person who they saw as making them feel less, like less of a smaller cog in the gears of making this game. And he also said he knew I would not take credit for things, and that I give credit to a lot of people. But he said those same people knew that others would give you credit. And that just makes insecure people feel more insecure than ever, because the people are giving you credit. When people call me Father Fallout, there's probably a lot of people on the Fallout team who bristle. And I didn't invent that. I don't call myself that, but it's one of those things. And if I get that from Fallout, where we all got along really well when we made that game, I can only imagine what it's like for people who didn't get along with me, and then they start hearing things like that. It probably just makes them feel less secure than ever. Now, in a way, all of this is imposter syndrome, and I did a whole video on that. I have felt imposter syndrome, so I empathize with how it feels to think I'm not good enough, I shouldn't be here. And the fact that I engender those feelings in other people horrifies me. But then the opposite is true. I have a video on being underestimated, where other people projected onto me like, you're not very good at this. And I'm like, I've already done this before. Or, we don't think you're going to do very good at this. And then I do. And I don't want to go up to them and go, nah, nah, nah. But at the same time, I've had some really harsh things said to me in my career. People have commented on some of the videos. They can't believe some of the things people would say to me. And it's just part and parcel with being in the industry for a long time. Eventually, people will say things like that to you. But one of the things I said in the imposter syndrome video is it's something you need to overcome yourself. Other people won't do that for you. No one's going to come along in your career and go, I know you feel like an imposter, but let me prove to you why you're not. You need to figure that out for yourself. And this is what the Carbine programmer was telling me. He was like, you have made people feel imposter syndrome, and they need to overcome that by themselves. It's the same way you did, the same way I did, the same way everybody did. And maybe I can't fix that in other people, but I still wonder what I could have done to reduce it. And quite frankly, it's exhausting thinking like this. And I've thought about it a lot. It tires you out. It makes you go, what could I have done differently? It makes you start wondering if you should regret the way you organized some of your projects or coordinated it, or who you put in charge of things. But I keep thinking back to that game design mantra that I say here and the Carbine programmer said to me, which is, in game design, there is no one size that fits all. So there's no company that it will be good for every single employee working there. There's no manager that will be great for anyone who can possibly work for that person. So it's one of those things that I think I'm just going to have to accept the fact that I have felt imposter syndrome, I have felt insecurity, and other people have too. And for some of those people, I'm the reason they feel that way. It bugs me, but I don't think I can do anything about it. Anyway, something I've been thinking about for almost a year, so I thought I'd ramble about it for a while. See you tomorrow.